Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Talk with AVC. We've now reached our NFL segment. And as I said in the previous segment, it was week 1 this past week, so we have a lot to talk about. One thing that I did promise to talk about on my social media this week, follow as the Talk with AVC on Instagram, the Talk with AVC on Twitter. One big thing that I wanted to talk about this week, because it happened with with a couple teams, was, is it worth giving running backs big extensions? So if you don't know, Dalvin Cook of the Minnesota Vikings and Alvin Kamara of the New Orleans Saints just got big extensions. Alvin Kamara for 5 years, Dalvin Cook for 4 years, both around $60 to $70 million over those 4 or 5 years. I believe that is a bit of a mistake. I think a lot of analytics and modern analysts back me up on this. Running back, in terms of value, may be the most overrated position in football. Yes, it is great to have a Saquon Barkley or a Ezekiel Elliott or even an Alvin Kamara, Dalvin Cook on the squad when you were trying to make a run, but I do not believe it is worth spending that kind of money on them. Here's why. The key to a good run game, it relies less so on the running back and more so on coaching scheme and offensive line. That's mainly where it comes from. You could say also quarterback could add another dimension to it. I mean, Lamar Jackson makes every single running back in his backfield better by just being him. So it relies on a lot of different things, not so much just the talent of the running back. I think the best example of that was last year with the Philadelphia Eagles in weeks 15 through 17, when Miles Sanders went down and undrafted player Boston Scott came in at running back. He arguably for those few weeks was a top 10 running back. And obviously in terms of talent, he's nowhere near a top 10 running back compared to these other guys. But he played like it. And why? Philly had a great offensive line and they had good run scheming. Damian Williams last year for the Chiefs was nothing special. Yes, they got a better one in Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But my point being, they were scheming up great run plays before that, and they were getting good production out of basically any back they put in the backfield. Look at what the Patriots have done over the years. That's why they have so many backs that don't pay them any real money. They just keep getting different backs, and they put them in, and they're great, but then they go to another team, and they're not the same. Dallas, I mean, even with, Darren McFadden had an 1,000-yard rushing season with that team. That was coaching and offensive line help. Yes, having elite talent at any position helps, but is it more worth paying that kind of money to someone like an offensive lineman, a defensive tackle, maybe a cornerback or an edge rusher, or even a wide receiver? And especially the other issue with running backs is longevity, especially if you're going to sign a running back to like a 5-year deal like Kamara has. Granted, he holds it off a little bit better because he has good route running and good hands, has a good connection within that offense. But quite frankly, for a team that's in a cap crunch like New Orleans, I think that was a waste of money. I honestly think you could have gotten another running back with the same value. For record, Kamara was a 3rd or 4th round pick. He is not that high of value. Look at what you can do. Like, you get a running back like Saquon Barkley 2nd overall, or you can get a running back like Alvin Kamara or Aaron Jones, or the list goes on. You can get running backs. Look at even Nick Chubb or DeAndre Swift. You get running backs in the middle rounds and get the same amount of value, honestly, just because running back is an overvalued position. And they also have the shortest lifespan of players in the NFL. A running back can be great his first 3 years from the ages of like 23 to 26. And then once he reaches his age 27, 28 season, he no longer has the same burst anymore because he's been getting hit so much instead of carry it so much. He just isn't the same guy anymore. Yes, there are exceptions like Adrian Peterson, but the point I'm trying to make is that a lot of running backs, the key man here is C.J. Anderson. You'd have a great season 2 years in a row, and then you vanish off the face of the earth because you're just no longer that quality of a back anymore. That's just how it is, and maybe it sucks, but that's just the case. All right, so moving on from that, let's look into a bit of a recap on what happened this week. Who can stop the Chiefs is the big question a lot of people are asking. Honestly, I don't know. If their offense is firing on all cylinders like it was on Thursday night against the Texans, I don't know who can stop them. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, like I said, running backs can add a different dimension to your game, but you should not be spending big money on them. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is now the Kareem Hunt piece that they had been missing ever since he left. And with a balanced offense, oh dear God, I don't even know what Patrick Mahomes is going to do with that. Look, the offense is still as good as advertised. They have the best quarterback in the league. They're going to put up a ton of points. Steve Spagnuolo's defense, I think, can be picked apart by the right team if you have the elite talent, but I don't think Houston had that elite talent outside of their quarterback on Thursday, and that's what hurt them. Houston, look, they're in a bit of a weird spot. They're going to compete. They're going to win games, but I just don't see them as anything deeper than a first-round, second-round playoff exit. Brown's going to Brown. Look, was anything more Cleveland Browns than what we saw this week? I made the mistake of having Baker anywhere near my fantasy lineup, and for the fantasy fans out there, everybody knows every single Browns player pretty much got screwed this week. Nobody played well. They were just absolutely demolished by the Ravens. I don't see a difference between this year and last year for them, honestly. Baker looked lost. The run game couldn't get anything going. They kind of just abandoned it halfway through. Odell has completely disappeared off the face of the earth. Like, just Brown's team just doesn't look like it's gelling together. And I think that if something doesn't change this year, you're going to have to look into moving some pieces of this core because I don't know if they can win together. Atlanta's lazy coaching. For anybody who doesn't know, I'm a Falcon fan and passionately about it. One thing that I was calling for last year was the firing of head coach Dan Quinn and offensive coordinator Derek Carter because I believe they're leading us to nothing but mediocrity. I watched almost all of that Seattle-Atlanta game yesterday, and to be quite frankly, I thought I was watching a game of last year. I saw the same issues again and again and again. Poor pass defense, poor adjustments at halftime in terms of defensive schemes. You couldn't stop Russell Wilson. Yes, it's Russell Wilson, but 31 for 35 on passing attempts with 4 touchdowns, and 3 of those incompletions came from wide open drops. That's called not being able to cover anybody. Yes, you got 3 sacks but with the amount of times they passed the ball, you need to force more incompletions. Yes, you made some stops near the end of the game, so that was nice to see, but that was really more in the run game because Seattle was trying to run the clock. As far as the offense, look, Matt Ryan threw about 400-something yards. He had 3 receivers over 100 receiving yards. Looks great on paper. The problem is it's not Matt Ryan. The problem is, quite honestly, the offensive scheming. The big difference in this game was even though Seattle went 1 for 7 on third down compared to Atlanta's 7 for 14, Atlanta went 0 for 4 on fourth down, and Seattle went 1-1. A few of those fourth downs really cost Atlanta the game. There was a fake punt halfway through the game where they fumbled the ball after getting the first down, which gave Seattle position inside their own territory. They got pinned back in their own territory a lot of times, giving Seattle optimal field position earlier in the game. And just kind of a vanilla offense once they got inside the 30. 3 straight run plays up the middle. Speaking of the run game got completely abandoned after a hot start by Todd Gurley. And you were just relying on high-end talent to bail you out, and kind of started to near the end, but it just wasn't fluent. You need a little bit more creativity on offense. You need some motions. You need to actually get people open. You need to be able to convert on fourth down. Why are you running a bootleg rollout to a fade route on a fourth and short? Why are you not either running the ball or throwing a short slant to a guy like a Julio Jones? These guys don't grow on trees, and you have 2 elite receivers, and you don't even use them properly on a fourth and short to get you back in the game. That's all I need to see. If this continues, this coaching staff has got to go. Josh Allen still needs work. Look, I know people have been giving me a little bit of a hard time for this in terms of people I've talked to, but I don't trust Josh Allen with this Bills team. I like this Bills team, but I don't trust Josh Allen. I saw a lot of the same stuff that I saw in that Houston Texans wildcard game. Look, congratulations. You beat the Jets. You only beat them by 10 points. You won 27-17, and you only scored 6 points in the second half, and those were 2 field goals. You only got them in the fourth quarter. You stalled out in the second half after the Jets adjusted to your offense. You couldn't utilize your main weapon in Stephon Diggs. And Josh Allen coughed at the football 2 times on the ground and also couldn't really fit in any passes inside the red zone. You settled for field goals twice in the fourth quarter because you couldn't fit in a pass, even though you had 2 wide open receivers. Look, Josh Allen's developing like fine wine right now, really, really slowly, and he needs to either pick up his pace on his development or I'm seeing another year of first or second round exit for Buffalo. Bears Lions mess. Look, I'm not going to talk too much about this. Mitch Trubisky decided to show up in the fourth quarter. Detroit shot themselves in the foot, and DeAndre Swift dropped the game-winning touchdown. There wasn't much to say about that. Rodgers shows off. So apparently the whole thing about Aaron Rodgers being fully healthy this season and not liking the whole Jordan Love thing and not being able to do anything on offense, yeah, apparently that's not true, as he single-handedly killed any team that was against him in fantasy this week, as he just absolutely destroyed the Vikings secondary. Granted, yes, young secondary, good O-line, but still, Aaron Rodgers can still sling it, man. Oh my gosh. He just went off. Devontae Adams, Marcos Valdez-Scantling, Alan Lazard. He got everybody involved, and he just put up a ton of points. If this is the Aaron Rodgers we're getting of old, then watch out this year, guys. Upsets in Jacksonville and Washington. So two of the teams that were predicted to be the worst in the NFL this year won week one. The Jags took out a dysfunctional Colts team that couldn't get anything going with Phillip Rivers, as Gardner Minshew is trying to show that, hey, maybe you should keep me instead of drafting Trevor Lawrence if we tank. And the Washington football team, with its stupid name, which apparently, according to Dan Snyder, if the fans like, might be permanent, decided to just destroy Philadelphia in the second half. Philly blew a 17-0 lead after Washington's D-line feasted on an injured O-line of Philadelphia, combining for about 8 sacks and 2 interceptions and a strip sack. That defense with Chase, especially with Chase Young, Matthew Ioannidis, Deron Payne, and Ryan Kerrigan rushing, that is a deadly force for anybody to run into. You need to have good offensive line play if you're going to beat them. The Pats look really meh. Everybody's overhyping the whole Cam Newton wins the first game about the Pats. If you watch that game, that was a really sloppy game. Cam Newton couldn't get anything going in the pass game. Most of it was with his legs. This team is looking very similarly to how the Broncos looked their first year with Tim Tebow under Josh McDaniels. And I think Josh McDaniels is going to utilize a similar offensive scheme as he did with Tebow with this form of Cam Newton, because I think that's probably the best you're going to get out of him. The defense looks solid still, even without Dante Hightower. We'll see how they do when they play a better offense and Ryan Fitzpatrick isn't giving you 3 easy interceptions. The run game was okay. Again, most of that was Cam Newton, but, I'm going to wait and see here. It looked really mad to start week one. We'll see how it goes. They play Seattle this week on Sunday Night Football. I think that's going to be a true test. Crack showing in the Niners' armor. The Niners looked really sloppy this week, and Arizona took advantage. Sloppy offensive play by Jimmy Garoppolo and just a lot of blown coverages on the defensive side of the ball. They just did not look sharp at all. And Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins took advantage and pulled off an upset here in week one. I think Cliff Kingsbury is becoming an underrated offensive coach. I know he's only been in the league for a year, but he looks like he knows what he's doing play calling wise. And Kyler Murray is impressive. He looks like he can sling it, and he looks like he can run it. I like what I'm seeing so far. I think the DeAndre Hopkins trade is going to really help his development. Joe Burrows' debut with the Bengals this week didn't quite go as planned, but honestly, it wasn't really his fault. Burrow played a very solid game, had a rushing touchdown, and I believe a passing touchdown, and looked like he was going to lead the team down the field to win the game. An offensive pass interference by A.J. Green kept them from getting the win, but they were in position to tie the game with a chip shot field goal where the kicker pulled his hamstring and shanked it wide right. That was one of the most impressive acts of the football gods smiting someone that I have ever seen. Welcome to Ohio, Joe. Have fun with the Bengals, because I feel like that might happen to you a lot. Saints blast Brady. Look, I kind of predicted this going in. The Saints were just a well-oiled machine, and they are just better together chemistry-wise. I don't think they really played their best game, but they didn't really have to based on how Brady and the Bucs played. One thing I'd be concerned about is I'm waiting for a feud between Arians and Brady to start, because Arians kind of called him out on social media, calling both interceptions his fault. It's like you don't usually see coaches call out their quarterbacks like that, but Bruce Arians did it last year with Jameis Winston. He's at the age where I don't think he really cares if he pisses off his quarterbacks anymore. He is just willing to stand up to Brady and say, look, you got to play better. And quite frankly, I basically agree. And last but not least, on Sunday Night Football, we had the Cowboys and the Rams, two teams in very similar situations who I kind of have similar ceilings on. I don't really think they'll win more than 10 games. Really high-flying offenses, questions about depth, star potential all over the field, but questions about depth and consistency. And I think we saw that a little bit Monday night. It was a little bit of Sunday night. It was a little bit of a slogfest at times. The Rams basically kind of limited their offense. They kept running the same 5 or 6 plays. Dallas had a hard time getting anything consistently going. They stalled out a lot. And yes, that PI call at the end of the game on Michael Gallup was ridiculous. At that point in the game, you can't be calling that. Let the players play. There was no blatant offensive pass interference there. it was a weak call, and quite honestly, it should have gone to overtime and been another interesting game. But the Zebras have to make narratives happen, and I don't think they wanted to let LA lose their first game in that intergalactic space dome they call a stadium. And then the one thing to look forward to tonight is Monday Night Football with the Giants and the Steelers and the Titans and the Broncos. I'm just going to do quick game picks. I have the Titans going over the Broncos, especially without Von Miller. And I have the Steelers going over the Giants. I think it'll be a closer game than people expect. I'm expecting about a 20-17 game in favor of Pittsburgh. The real thing is going to be how will Big Ben play? I think that's the big story heading into this game. All right, thank you all very much for watching this segment here of the Talk with AVC. This was our football segment. Our next segment is going to be our NHL and NBA segment, and we actually have quite a bit to talk about in that, so I will see you there.